So in the last session, we discussed about, I think, on Selenium commands, right? Navigational commands. And also we have seen how to handle the windows, multiple windows, browser windows. So in this session, we'll discuss about wait commands, Selenium wait commands. Very important topic. So both like in the usage point of view, in the automation scripts, and also in the interview point of view, most important topic, Selenium wait commands. So what are Selenium waits? So Selenium waits. So before even that, like let's actually understand what's the need for wait commands. So we we have to understand a concept called synchronization. So what is synchronization? So synchronization. So we write a script, right? We write an automation script, and so we write some lines of code of automation script. This is our automation script, right? And this actually, what it does, it automates some use case in your browser, right? It opens a browser and it actually does some tasks in it, right? So say, for example, the automation scripts goes in sequence, right? So it's sequential, line by line of code will be executed, right? So if it is gonna executed in this way, and if, but web page, right? So we are automating a web page. So web page could actually lag in time, like there could be some load time would be more in some times, right? So it has to wait. But automation script will not have any clue of loading, and the elements are present or not, like that. So what it does, it goes in sequence, and go in sequential, it will execute the automation script line by line according to the script which I have written, right? And according to that script, the actions will be performed on the web browser. That is fine. But if there is delay, like in the page loading time, or if the elements are, elements on the web page are displayed uh, taking long time, then we will have this synchronization problem. We call that as a synchronization problem, because script can't wait, right? So it can't wait, it can't know, it has no clue about if page is loaded or not, like if the element is present on the web page before I perform some action. It doesn't know about that, right? So what it does, the page might be loading, it might be taking more time to load than expected, but automation script doesn't know about that. It will actually try to interact with the element. Say, for example, some element is taking some time to load, right? So according to the automation script which we have written, we might have located this element and we wanted to perform some action on that element. So in that case, what happens? So for some reason, there could be multiple reasons for the element to be, taking more time to display on the web page. It could be because of the network connection issues. It could be application issue, multiple issues, right? It might be dependent on some other values, right? So in that case, say for example, this element is taking long time to load. In that case, what happens? The automation script tries to interact with the element. It will try to perform some action on the element, but the element is not loaded yet. And the automation script feels that the element is not present. So you are trying to interact with the element which is not even present. So it will throw no such element exception. So mainly when we are working with synchronization, right? So this happens, right? So synchronization concept is all about this. You write an automation script to automate a web page. And if both the automation script and the web page, loading of web page and the action performed on the web page, both are not in sync, then you get a problem called, mainly you will get an exception like no such element exception. No such element exception. So if you get this exception, first thing we have to see is, if the element is present on the, so no such element exception usually comes if the element is not present on the web page, right? So the first thing we have to see is, if we have to confirm if the element is really not present on the web page, we might be wrong in locating the element, right? So we have to confirm that. So if you are 100% correct that the element is present and its XPath or its location, whatever you have identified is right, but still you are getting this exception, then it will definitely be the synchronization problem. Then we have to use the Selenium wait commands. You'll also get not found exception also, right? Not found exception. This is actually super class, so no such element exception. All the other exceptions we'll see in the coming sessions. All those exceptions will be the child class or subclass of the not found exception, right? So when we get no such element exception, first thing we'll confirm is if the element location which we identified using Selenium locators is correct or not. Once we confirm that it is correct, then it will be a synchronization problem. So we have to use the Selenium commands because the page might be loading, might be taking some time to load, right? So we have to use the Selenium wait commands in that case, right? So we will see an example now. What are the Selenium commands? We'll see one by one. So Selenium commands, Selenium waits. So what are Selenium waits? So even for that, we have to see, we will see some other function, some other method, okay? So let's see an example on that. So I'll navigate to this URL. If you see, there is nothing here, right? So there is just some labels here and a button you can see, start button, right? So if I click on this button, so it is taking some time to load, right? So it is taking some time. It says loading, and then after few seconds, it just displays some text here, right? So this is what we wanted to capture after clicking on the button. So this will be our use case to understand the Selenium wait today. Okay. All right. Now what we'll do is how do we automate it? So let's take this URL. I'll create a new package for today. We'll call it as 328. So usually how do we automate it? First, we'll create an instance of WebDriver, right? So then we'll navigate to the particular URL. WebDriver equal to new Chrome driver. I'm instantiating it to the Chrome driver so that a new Chrome browser window will be opened. All right, now driver.get, we'll navigate to the particular URL. And then I wanted to maximize my window. Manage.window.maximize, right? All right. So once we navigate, we wanted to click on this button, right? So once we navigate to this URL, we wanted to click on this button. So let's locate this button, inspect. Yeah, we can see here button, right? So this button we are gonna use to click, right? So you can see this is under ID, right? Div ID. So we can even use ID as well, right? By dot see if you hover on this, it is also it is selecting the start button itself, right? So we can use tag name ID also. So tag name button also. So it has a tag called button and it doesn't have any attributes, right? So we can directly use tag name button here. So what I'll do is driver.find element by dot tag name. What's the tag? It is button, right? So we'll say button click. You can clearly see here, it's a button, right? Yeah. So once we identify the element, we wanted to click on it. All right. So let's click on it. And then what we wanted to find, we wanted to find this text, right? So this text we wanted to find hello world text. So if you see here, before loading, if I hover on this start, you see only div ID equal to start here, right? So now observe, when I click on start, you can see here what happens. So a new div has been added, which is called finish, right? So loading is also there, but end of that, after loading, we get a something called hello world, right? So the text is present in this div id equal to finish, right? So within that we have some other tag called h4 where we had this text hello world, right? So we can use this div id, right? So we can write the XPath for it to get the to read the text which is displayed after loading, right? So you can see here. I'm just taking relative XPath for this finish. So this will be displayed only after the loading part, right? So I'll just take XPath for this, and then we'll say driver dot find element y dot XPath. And find element, it returns web element, right? So let's capture that in something called finish element. Now it's an element, web element, but it's a label, right? So we wanted to actually get the text which is displayed within that web element, right? So finish element dot get text is a method which we need to use. So it's an element we located, but we wanted to read the text which is present within that element, right? So finish element dot get text. We'll say text found. What's the text? This is the text, is what we wanted to read, right? So now let's execute this as is. Navigates to the URL. Yeah, it maximizes the window, clicks on start button. So once it is loaded, it has to read. But if you observe, we get an exception here. So what it says, no such element exception. This is what we were talking about. No such element, unable to locate element. But we are sure that this ID equal to finish was pointing to the finish text here, right? So it was clear. It is there. See, if I hover on this, so this is what it says. The text has been highlighted, right? So we can confirm that whatever locator we are using here is correct. So the second thing we have to verify now is, so we are sure that there is no issue with our element, but still we are getting no such element exception. So in this case, we have to think of the synchronization problem. So it could be because of, page might be taking long time to load before that is displayed. But in our case, so most of the cases it will be like that. But in our case, right? So what is the cause? So once we click on this button, it will take some time. So once I click, see this loading is taking time. So even before that, what happens? So we click and then immediately we are trying to find the element finish, right? So we clicked on the button. It was taking some time. Here it is actually taking time to load, right? It is taking time. It says loading here, right? But in the meantime, what did we do? We actually tried to find the element finish. So that was the issue. So you clicked on button, but without any wait time, right? So we directly tried to locate the element finish. By that time, it was only loading. This element is not even present, right? So this is the reason it was saying no such element exception. This is present, but we have to wait till this loading is completed, right? But how do we actually control that? Automation script goes in sequence, executing line by line, right? So how do we actually control that? We can control it by the wait commands. So what we can do is we can use a method which is not specific to specific to the Selenium, but there is something called Thread.sleep method. So which is from Java. So you can say add throws declaration, and we can use this method, Thread.sleep method, which actually waits for 5 seconds. So why we wanted to wait? We wanted to control the script so that, we wanted automation script to pass for some time so that this element is visible on the web page. So once we wait for some time, So the approximate time you have to specify here. Say for example, it is taking some 3-4 seconds, right? So it's better always to actually have 1 or 2 seconds more than that, right? So I'm just waiting for 5 seconds. If this is not sufficient enough, then we will increase this time. So what this thread.sleep does is, so this is in milliseconds. So when I say 5,000, it waits for 5 seconds. 1000 milliseconds equal to 1 second, right? So it waits for 5 seconds here, and then actually executes the second part, the next line of code. So by the time it waits 5 seconds, this element will be displayed on the web page. So it will identify this element on the web page and will try to fetch the text out of it, right? So now let's try to execute it. Yeah, it is done. Yeah, now you can see text from hello world. It was able to fetch the text, right? So what did we do here? After clicking the button, so there is some action going on, right? Or something performed on the web page. So in the meantime, we wanted like only after that loading, so we can find the element which we wanted to read the text from, right? So in between these two actions, so we wanted to, so there is a loading time, right? So how do we can control this? We can use a method called thread.sleep and specify some time here, right? So this time can be anything. You can actually specify some approximate time of loading for it. So I just used 5 seconds, it worked out for me. But if it was taking long time, I have to increase this time, wait time, right? So once that is done, it waits for 5 seconds. So it clicks on the button and then it is waiting for, the automation script is waiting for 5 seconds. And then it will try to find this element. By the time 5 seconds is passed, so then, this element will be displayed on the web page, right? So then it will identify that element and then it will try to extract the text from that element. So which worked for us, right? All right. So what did we discuss? This method, thread.sleep, is coming from, it's a Java method, right? It's not specific to Selenium. And what are the disadvantages of it? The advantage of it is fine. Like it waits, uh, it waits for the time which we specify, right? So which we specify here, till that time it will wait. So it will wait in the sense it will pass the automation script. That is fine. But what are the disadvantages of it? There are some disadvantages of it. So if you see here, if the time is not sufficient, say for example, if 5 seconds was not sufficient, right? So then you will still get an exception. Say for example, if I have given 3 seconds like that, I don't know, right? So how much time it takes based upon the manual execution, I'll estimate some time and I'll provide it. So if this time exceeds, right, then you will still get the exception, right? Say for example, 2 seconds, right? I might not be knowing how much time it is taking. I'll just say some time here. I'll just put some 2 seconds, only 2 seconds, right? In this case, what happens? Let's see. So, okay. So here we are waiting for only 2 seconds. So now what happens? If the loading time is taking more than 2 seconds, then see it is taking at least 2 seconds, right? More than 2 seconds. Clearly we can see that. Now what happens? We'll still get the exception, right? So this is the disadvantage of it. So you have to try with different options, different timeouts, or else what we do, we'll have a more time than it is loading. Say for example, you can't estimate it how much time it is taking. So then to be safe, what you'll do, you'll put a round figure or you'll put a long time waiting for 10 seconds, right? So that's the actual disadvantage of it. So two disadvantages which you can see is if the time is not sufficient, then you'll get an exception, right? So if the time is not sufficient, get an exception. You get an exception, right? And then if it waits for the maximum timeout. So if you see here, say for example, I put it 10 here, right? Or 15. So what happens? Even if the element is found after 5 seconds, it still waits for 10 more seconds. Or let's say for example, 10 seconds I give it to be safe, right? So what happens when you run the automation script? It might be loading in 3, 4 seconds or 5 seconds, right? Still it waits for 5 more seconds. So the element is available. This line of code can be executed after the element is displayed. But it has no clue about if the element is present or loaded on the web page or not, right? It is still waiting for 10 seconds. It doesn't know what how the automation script is running, what's displayed on the web page, nothing, right? So it is just a wait time of 10 seconds. It will just halt the automation script for 10 seconds, right? Even though the element is displayed on the web page within 3 seconds also, 3 or 4 seconds, it will wait for the rest of the time, right? So whatever timeout we have specified, it will just wait for till that time, right? So this is actually, performance overhead, right? So it waits for maximum timeout. So this actually impacts the script's performance, as it waits for maximum timeout, right? And also, say for example, I have some other element, right? So I wanted to, within my script, I have some other element which actually takes some long time to load, right? So what can I do? I'll again need to use this Thread.sleep there. And according to the load time, I have to estimate and I have to put some number here, right? For that particular element. So this has to be repeated for each element, which actually takes some time to load, right? So this is repeated. Repeat multiple times. Need to repeat multiple times. So these are the disadvantages of using Thread.sleep, which is a method of Java, right? So now, how are we going to overcome it? We are going to use Selenium weights now. So what are Selenium weights? We do have implicit wait. There are 3 Selenium weights: implicit wait, explicit wait, and fluent wait. We'll discuss one by one. What is implicit wait? First, we'll take implicit wait. So implicit wait, it is common for, we'll write it once in the Selenium script, and it is applicable for all the elements. It is applicable for all the elements. So that actually resolves this disadvantage of Thread.sleep, right? And it will not wait for maximum timeout, right? So first let me write the syntax of it. How do we use it? Driver dot, it is from Selenium is what we said, right? So whenever we say it is from Selenium, it will be mostly from WebDriver instance, right? So Selenium dot, sorry, driver dot WebDriver instance dot manage is a method dot, there's another method called timeouts dot implicitly wait. It's an implicit wait, right? So the method is also called implicitly wait. And then we have to specify the duration. So how many seconds it has to wait for maximum. So we can mention some number of seconds here. Of seconds is a method which is a static method of duration class. So you can use some 10 like that, right? So what is the, so this is the syntax of implicit wait command, right? Driver dot manage is a method, and it timeouts dot implicitly wait for 10 seconds is what we are saying. So what's the meaning of this is, so while you are executing the automation script, so you'll write it once at the beginning of the automation script, and the meaning of it is, so it can handle the page load time as well as the web elements displayed on the web page. Meaning, so your automation script, right? So you write a line of code continuously, right? So in this case, what happens? you go and write your automation script, right? With multiple lines of script you have written. So we will mention implicit wait at the beginning of the script. So we will mention at the beginning of the script, right? Say for example, implicit wait of 10 seconds we have mentioned. So this statement, this wait command will take care of the whole script. So what does we mean by taking care or handling the entire script regarding synchronization is, so some web pages, say for example, driver.get URL. So due to some reason, right, the server might be, sending the delayed response and the web page might be loading. It might be taking long time to load. So in that case, this implicit wait, what it does is it applies to that as well. So it waits for 10 seconds, maximum 10 seconds for the page to load, right? So it is applicable to that implicitly, right? It knows that we have written implicit wait. So it knows that. So it is loading, the page is loading. I have to wait for at least 10 seconds, maximum 10 seconds is what it will think of. And say, for example, it comes within, the page is loaded within 10 seconds, 3 or 4 seconds, right? Then it will not wait for the complete 10 seconds. It will just, go ahead with the next instruction. So say this was your driver.get URL, right? So which is taking some time, long time. Then what happens? Long time in the sense, say for example, for 4 or 5 seconds, right? So this implicit wait, it will know. The page is loading. I have to wait. I have to wait for maximum 10 seconds is what it will say. It will know, right? So it will know, and it will actually what it says. Say for example, the page is loaded in 3 or 4 seconds, right? So then it will not wait for the rest of the time. It will just proceed with the next instruction. So that's the advantage of implicit command when compared to the thread.sleep. But thread.sleep, if you see, it impacts the script performance at wait for the maximum timeout, right? So implicit wait actually resolving this problem. And also you don't need to write it every time you wanted to wait for any element to be displayed on the web page, right? So you will write it once at the beginning of the script, which will handle all the web elements. So we just discussed about the page load, right? Now coming to web element. Say for example, some web element is taking long time to load. So you don't need to write some wait command for this specific web element. So once you write the implicit wait, right? So this will even take care of the element loads as well. So you have located this element, right? So even if this element is not present on the web page, so it will wait for maximum 10 seconds, and it will actually wait for that that element if it is displayed on the web page or not, right? So it will wait for 10 seconds. Even after 10 seconds, if web element is not present on the web page, then it will throw the exception. But at max, it will wait for 10 seconds. Again, as we said, it will not wait for maximum timeout, right? So if the element is located, let's say for example, in 2 seconds, if the element is displayed within 2 seconds on the web page, then it will just proceed with the next instruction. It will not wait for the complete 10 seconds, right? So this actually resolves this second disadvantage of the dot sleep. And also you don't need to write multiple times. Only single time we can define this implicit wait command. That too, always it's a good practice to actually have it at the beginning of the script. And if the time is not sufficient, we'll get an exception. This is still there, right? So this was not, we were not able to resolve this with the implicit wait. That's fine. But at least we were able to resolve two disadvantages of thread.sleep, right? So it doesn't wait for till maximum timeout. Once the element is found or once the page is loaded, it will just execute that command and it will proceed with the next line of code. And you don't need to repeat this command multiple times. We can write it once at the beginning of the script, right? Now, and the syntax of it is this. So we'll see the same example using the implicit wait now. So what I'll do is I can take a copy of this. We'll call this as implicit wait. So we'll create a driver instance. We'll navigate to this URL and then we'll maximize the window. We'll find the button and then we'll click on the button. It will take some time, but this time we are not going to use thread.sleep. I'll just remove this. And then once the element is displayed on the web page, we'll find the web element and then we'll get the text out of it. Same code, right? So we wanted to see by removing thread.sleep, right? So if we do not write any command, then it will fail. We have seen that. Now we have to use the implicit wait. So how do we use that? So once you actually navigate, or once you instantiate your driver, we can write it even here. We can mention the implicit wait once the driver is, once you instantiate your driver, right? So you can even put the implicit wait command here. So what's the syntax? Driver dot manage dot timeout is a method dot implicitly wait. And implicitly wait method actually takes, you can see, duration object as the parameter. Specifies the amount of time the driver should wait when searching for an element if it is not immediately present. So that's the definition of it, right? So that's what this implicit wait does. So we have to specify the duration here, duration dot. So once you say off, you will get different options. What's the duration you wanted to mention, right? You can even mention minutes also. So I'll say I'll take off seconds and then I'll wait for 10 seconds at max. So even if it is not found within 10 seconds, right? Then we have to think of it like not the automation script error, but it would be some issue with the application, right? So the default time, at least like we can think a good practice is like the application should load within 10 seconds, loading time, right? Or any element to be displayed on the web page. So it should not actually take more than 10 seconds. So we can write it as 10 seconds at max for the implicit wait. That's all. We just added this comment, right? We did not actually write anything. We did not modify the rest of the code, right? We just removed the red.sleep because we wanted to see an example on the implicit wait. And that implicit wait, we have declared it at the beginning of the script once the driver is instantiated, right? Now observe. Now let's see. It clicks on the start button. It is loading. It is taking some time and then done. Now, if you go back, yeah, we can see the text font, right? So this we got it even without the thread.sleep. We didn't write any command in between this, right? So after clicking, it will take some time and it will actually display this element. So we did not write any script between these two lines, but still it worked. This is because implicit wait was applicable here. So implicit wait actually handle or manage, or it has taken care of this, you know, this situation of, passing the script or waiting for this element to be displayed on the web page. So with this implicit wait, what happened? So it knows after clicking this, it knows it was waiting for this element to be present. So it was not found. Then what it did? Implicit wait. Okay, it has seen its duration of seconds. Okay, I have to wait for 10 seconds at max to for this element to be present. Then it will go on like try to search for this element till this time is till this time till the time which we have mentioned here is completed, right? So say for example, it actually polls every second. Polls in the sense it will try to find this element. If this element is present, no, it is not present. If we still have this time, yes, we still have this time. So we should not actually throw the exception. It will wait for another second like that. Each second it will verify. And if it is present at any point of time, then it will just go ahead with the next line of code. So that's the use of implicit wait. So what are the advantages of implicit wait and disadvantages? So let's mention that here. So advantages. So we can clearly see with respect to thread.sleep, right? So we can, so this needs to be repeated multiple times, but define only once and applicable to the whole script, right? And one more thing, it will not wait for maximum timeout. will not wait for maximum timeout. Will not wait for maximum timeout, right? So once the element is found, it will just go ahead with the execution. Next line of code, right? So these are the advantages, and it define only once and applicable to the whole script, right? Or what we can say is define only once, and it is applicable to all the page, all the web elements. Applicable to all the web elements, right? And we can say it is easy to use also. Simple, right? It's just one statement which you define it after the driver instance, right? At the beginning of the script. So we can say it is easy to use. These are the advantages of it. Again, like what's the disadvantage? We have seen that this is not resolved, right? If the time is not sufficient, we get an exception. This is the disadvantage of it. This is about implicit wait. Understood? Any questions on this? We can put it on the chat box. Okay, perfect. So this is all about the implicit wait, right? Now, let's understand next wait, which is explicit wait. What is explicit wait? So explicit wait, unlike like implicit wait or thread.sleep, it doesn't actually depend on the type. It actually depends on the condition. So you can specify the condition. So it works based on the both, like it actually still the time will be there. So only not only time, but also it actually works on the condition. So what the condition is? So the condition could be like, so say for example, your page is loading and some element is taking some time, some long time to load on the web page, right? So for that particular element, we can write some condition. Say for example, you know, we can mention the condition, right? So element to be clickable. So if it is a clickable element, so depending on the web element, we will have different conditions specified using the explicit wait. For example, so the element in our case, in our example, right? So we can see that there is a method called visibility of element located. That is, the element has to be visible till that time. So try to wait is what we can mention, the condition, right? We'll also mention the time. Time should definitely be there because if there is no time, right? So this might actually wait for infinite time, right? But we don't wanted that. So we will specify some time, and top of that, we'll also add some condition, different condition, right? So visibility of element located or element to be clickable, like that, right? So depending on the web element, we can perform different actions, right? And explicit wait, we write it for specific element, right? So for that specific element only, we write it. So for that, what we'll do, we'll mention the time and also we'll have the some condition set for it. So as this is very specific to the element, we can write one condition for each element. And each element, so the web element could be, it could be a button, it could be, input field, it could be a checkbox, radio button, anything, right? So it could be a logo, image. Depending on the web element, we will have a different condition. The action which can be performed on a different element. So depending on that, we'll have a different condition specified. So we'll have the time, and within that time, we'll also check the condition. If that condition is met, then we'll actually find the element, locate the element, and we'll proceed with the automation script execution. Or else the script waits till that condition is met, and within that time specified. Right? So you'll understand better when we actually write the syntax and see an example, right? So waits, like it has two parts, declaration part and usage, right? We declare it and we also use it, right? So let's see the same example. We'll see using the explicit wait, how we can write it. and just take a copy of this. We'll say explicit wait. It's not implicit, so we'll just remove this. So what's the syntax of it? So how do we declare it? We can declare it at once, like maybe a beginning or wherever the wherever we wanted first element to be located, right? So WebDriver wait, or what we can do is there's a class called new WebDriver wait. There's a class called WebDriver wait, and this we need to pass two parameters to it: WebDriver instance as well as maximum time mode, duration dot of seconds. I'll just mention it as 10. We have to import it. This WebDriver wait is a class which we'll use. So this is actual explicit wait time. So how do we specify time for explicit wait is we have to use a class called WebDriver wait class, where we'll specify the maximum time mode. So because this explicit wait will work based on condition, but still it will have timeout, right? So within the timeout, that condition has to be satisfied or that condition has to be met, right? So this WebDriver wait is coming from this org.openqa selenium.support.ui package. So just click on this so that particular package will be imported. All right. Now if you see this class WebDriver wait is present in this package, right? So this is imported. All right. So let's actually capture this in the WebDriver wait reference variable. I'll call this as explicit wait. All right. So we have this explicit wait now, which has its own timeout, maximum timeout specified, right? Now, how do we use it? So we have written driver.findElement, and how we have found the element, right? Element to be displayed on the web page. So we are gonna change this bit now, right? So how we are gonna change? So let me put it here as is. How that is changed, we'll write it here. I'll write it here. So explicit wait, the object, WebDriver wait object dot, there's a method called until. So until, and then we'll use a class called expected conditions dot visible. So if you see, these are all the conditions. So what did we do here? Explicit wait is a WebDriver wait reference, WebDriver wait object, right? So meaning like we wanted to specify the maximum timeout. So that is what we have seen here in the declaration part. Now we are using this explicit wait object and writing the condition. So how do we write the condition? Explicit wait dot, it has its own method called until, and then it takes a parameter. So the parameter is of expected conditions type. So expected conditions dot, it has its own methods. See, alert is present. If alert is present, all these are the conditions, right? Attribute contains element selection state to be element to be clickable. So based on the web element, we have to specify the different action. So now this is not element to be clickable for us. This is reading the text, or this is just an element displayed on the web page, and we have to fetch the text out of it, right? So what we can do here is we can use a method called visibility of element located. Visibility of, see, even visibility of, we have different methods, right? Visibility of element located. We want the element to be located, and that has to be uh, visible, right? Visible on the web page. That is what we are specifying. We have a method for that. Visibility of element located. And then we can specify the XPath within it. So if you see, visibility of element located is actually taking by object, right? Locator. So you don't need to specify the XPath using driver.findElement here. So finding the web element is inclusive when you are using explicit wait. So what do we mean by inclusive is, so you can just specify this by .xpath here itself. You don't need to actually, have the driver.findElement used. So this visibility of element itself is taking by object. So what we usually do, by object is taken by findElement method to locate the element. So we are using findElement. But here in explicit wait, we definitely need to specify condition. So that we will specify using expected conditions. And why we are specifying this condition? So that because until is a method of WebDriver wait class, so which actually takes this expected conditions as a parameter. Right? So explicit wait dot until method is what we wanted to use to use the explicit wait. So we use this explicit wait dot until method file. But this method is taking expected conditions, right? Some function, right? So that function we wanted to use the method as, so that parameter as expected conditions dot then its own methods. So we wanted to, this element is on normal label text element, right? This finish. So after finish, if you see, it was just a text here. So according to that, we have to choose this method. So because expected conditions that we have different methods for each condition. So we have different conditions. And for each condition, there is one method, right? And these methods are specific to the web element. So this web element is a text or a label. So I am using visibility of element located, right? So if it was a button, then we will use element to be clickable, like that. If it is an alert, alert is present, like that. So we'll see different type of methods in the expected condition in the coming session according to our requirement. But for now, this is a text, this is a label. So we are using visibility of element located. And this method again is taking by object here. So by object is locator, right? So it is, so here we can specify the XPath. We can specify the XPath. With this, it will identify the element. So that's all. This is the complete syntax of it. Now we can capture this. So again, like this until method is returning web element, if you observe. This until method is returning a web element. So we can capture this into a web element. I'll just call it as finish element. So that's all. So this is the syntax of it. So first we did two things here, right? So we wanted to specify the timeout because explicit wait also works based on the time and also condition, right? If it was working only based on time, we already have the implicit wait. There would have not been any difference. But explicit wait also gives you the fine-grained control over the condition, right? So you can even specify the condition here. So how do we actually specify the condition? So first we will have the maximum timeout declared like this using the WebDriver wait object, right? WebDriver wait class, which specifies the maximum timeout. All right. Now we have the reference variable of WebDriver wait. Using that, so what we can do, we will use the until method. And until within the until method, we can specify the condition to be satisfied. And within the condition, we can specify the locator as well. So this is the new thing for us, right? So till now, we are actually finding the element using the find element method. Here, visibility of element located or the method which has to verify the condition itself is taking the parameter as by, right? By in the sense locator. We can specify the locator here itself so that it will take care of locating the element. So the locating element when you are using explicit wait is inclusive within that syntax itself. So it will identify this element using this method itself. Visibility of element located, the element which it wants to be located will be specified here, right? So that's the whole syntax of it. And until method is returning web element. So finally, we wanted the web element to be present on the web page. So we captured that into a web element object. And finally, we are trying to read the text on that element, right? So that's the whole thing of it, about the explicit wait declaration part and how we use it using the until method. Simple. So this part why we are declaring it is we wanted to specify the time. And the second line we are specifying it, we wanted to specify the condition. So time and condition both has to be there when we are using the explicit wait. And how we specify the condition is we will specify the until method, and within that we will specify some condition. And to specify that condition, we will use a class called expected conditions dot, which will provide the methods based on the element which we wanted to interact with, or based on the element which we wanted to wait for to be visible on the web page, right? That's all. And within that method, we'll specify the locator of that particular element. So this is about the explicit wait, right? Now, let me execute the code. Done. Yeah, and you can see text form, right? So no error. Again, like what did we do after this? Even if you observe here, so we clicked on it. We clicked on this button, right? And after that, we have to perform something which actually waits for the element to be located on the web page, right? So what did we do this time? We use the explicit wait for that, and we have written a condition. So what is this condition? The element has to be located on the web page. So what's the element? This is the element. That's it. This is the element that has to be located on the web page is what this statement does. But until this condition is satisfied, it will try to locate that element. It will try to find the element if it is present or not. And again, it will actually take this into consideration. It has to be found within this 10 seconds. Within this 10 seconds, this condition has to be met. If it is not met, it will go on like try to find the element. It will try to poll and try to find the web element continuously. If this element is present, if this element is present or not, is what this statement, will try to perform on the web page. It will try to find this element on the web page till this condition is satisfied. If this condition is satisfied within this time, right? Say for example, again, in 3-4 seconds, it is identified, or within 2 seconds, this element is visible on the web page. Then it will just go ahead with the next line of code. It will not wait for the maximum time of 10 seconds. It will just, as the element is located or this condition is satisfied, then it will just, goes for the executing the next line of code. So all these waits, everything, why we are writing this? So we wanted to have this synchronization problem resolved, right? So we have some problem here. We wanted to wait for that. We need some wait time before actually locating this next element, or before executing the next line of code within the script. So this is the reason we are writing this comment, right? Different commands we have seen. So here we have more control over how we can actually wait for an element, right? So the control here is condition. Time we have already seen. Within the time, we do have some other flexibility called condition. We can specify the condition, right? So that condition we can specify using the explicit wait, and this is how it works. Is that clear? Understood? Explicit wait, very important one. This is specific to the web element. So this is not common for the entire script. This is not common for all the web elements, right? So this is specific to the web element because the expected condition will write it for that web element based on the web element. So each web element, we can perform different actions, right? So as we can perform different actions on each web element, based on that, we have different methods. Methods we can use for the condition to be specified, right? So this is about the explicit wait. Is that clear? Understood? So both time and a condition. So that we can achieve like using the explicit wait. So in order to give you an example, right? So say for example, there is a, you know, uh, you are waiting for your friend, right? So you might have actually discussed Like you both need to meet at a particular place at some particular time. Say, for example, you plan to meet at some particular time. Say, for example, at maybe 6 p.m., something like that, right? So now your friend has to come to that same place at this mentioned time, right? So what you will do? You will wait for some time, right? You will wait for some time. What's the condition? You wanted to, why you are here? There is a condition, right? So you wanted to meet your friend here, right? So this friend has to actually come by 6 p.m. because you are already here waiting for him, right? So if your friend is, is not here by 6 p.m., what he will do? He'll wait for some time, right? You can wait, you'll wait for some 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maximum 20 minutes like that. And then what he will do? He'll just leave that place, right? So you can't wait infinite time there, right? So in the same way, we do have the maximum timeout for explicit wait as well. So we do have the condition, right? So it waits for some condition to be met, but we can't wait infinite time, right? So we can wait for some particular time, right? So maximum time. So that time we will wait, and then as the friend leaves that place, so we have to actually come out of that script, and we need to mention it as no such element exception, right? So again, as we have time here, we'll definitely have the that part, like the disadvantages. We have to mention the time, right? We don't need to even call it as disadvantage because that's actually necessary, right? If, say, for example, you are writing maximum timeout as 15 seconds, 20 seconds for some element to be present on the web page. If it is still not available, then there could be some issue with your script itself. If the application itself, sorry, not the script, right? So your script, whatever you can do to handle that load time, we did it using the wait commands. But still, if it is not loaded, that could be really an issue on the application end. Then we have to look at that application, why it is taking a long time, and we have to report it as a bug or an issue to the concerned development team. Because the performance of the application should be very fast, right? So it can't take a long time. So it could be an issue with your application itself. So the ideal time to wait for any application 10 seconds, unless and until it's a specific web element, which might be taking long time, like say, for example, it has to fetch lots of data from the database, and it might take some time to, load the data from the database and display it on the UI. In such cases, it may take more time, more than 10 seconds. But ideal time you have to wait for is like 10 seconds. If it is not visible, the element is not visible, or if the page is taking long time, more than 10 seconds, then it will definitely be an issue on the application server also. There is a chance, right? So we have to report that as an issue to the concerned development team. So now let's see the advantages of it. What are the advantages of explicit wait? So it's a condition based. It's not only time based, it's also condition based. Condition based. We have fine grained control over it, as it is condition based, right? And the element, we did not use find element if you observe. So that is inclusive. We don't need to find the element using driver.find element. That is inclusive within the condition, right? So finding element is, we can say finding element is inclusive within the syntax, right? So it is not considering the time, right? First, it will wait for the condition to be true. First, it will check the condition. Only then it will verify the time. So, it is not based on the time, right? It is based on the time, but it takes time as the second precedence. First it will check that expected condition. If it is true, and again, like with it, anyway, it has to be within this time period. It has to be found. But first preference, it will give it for the condition, right? So we'll wait. It will wait for condition to be true. If the condition is true, we'll wait for condition to be true. within the maximum timeout. It has to be true within the maximum timeout. Both has to be satisfied. But first it will verify the condition. If the condition is true and if it is true within the maximum timeout, then it will return the web element. Or else, even the explicit wait also will return no such element exception. And what's the disadvantage of it? Like again, we need to write multiple statements for multiple elements, right? So say for example, this element is fine, right? And some button might be taking some time. Say for example, I am filling all the details in a form, and finally the submit button will enable after validating all these fields, say for example. So, and that button is enabled only after filling, after validating all the fields in the form. So in that case, what we'll do, expected conditions dot, we'll say that element to be clickable. That's a button, right? So we'll change the method here, which will say element to be clickable. And we'll mention, we'll try to locate that element. And say, for example, we are waiting for that button to be enabled in 5 seconds, right? So that was the case. So in that case, what we'll do, we'll repeat this statement again, right? So maybe, and also if the time is different, like we need to again have a different object. The duration of, if the second maximum timeout you wanted to wait is different. Say for example, even if this is constant, we have to modify this statement, right? So this statement, we have to bring it here. If it is a button, then we'll say element to be clickable, something like that, element to be clickable, and you'll write something called button here. If that button is present, right, then it will actually have this condition true, and then we need to go ahead with the next statement. So my point here is you have to have the multiple statements written for each web element to load, right? For any web element, we wanted to have a wait time, then you need to repeat this line every time, right? Because it's the explicit wait itself is based on some condition, and the condition is based on the action we perform on that particular web element. So we'll definitely need to write this statement again and again for each element. One statement for each element. Or I can say, we can't say repeat, we can say one statement because the statement might differ, right? So according to the web element, so I'll say one statement for each web element. I'm just mentioning it as the, okay. Or what we can say is we'll wait for condition to be played. So we can say that these are the how it works. So this is how you can use the explicit wait. So what are the different conditions available? So you can see here, what if you wanted to know what are the different conditions available, you just have a dot after expected conditions and all these what you are seeing here, right? So all these methods which you see here, all these are the conditions which we can use, right? So some of the conditions I'll put it here. You can go through and you can try it for the other web elements. These are the different conditions. So alert we'll discuss in the coming session. Alert is a pop-up which actually gives you a information or a warning. Element selection state to be. What will be the element selection? So this we can use it for radio buttons and checkboxes. Element to be clickable. This we can use it for buttons like that. Element to be selected again. Checkbox or radio button like that. Frames, presence of elements, text to be present in element, right? So what's the title? What the title contains? All this visibility of element located. We have seen just now, right? So all these methods we can use different as a different conditions for specific to that web element. So these are the different conditions available, right? So and this is all about the explicit wait. Hope that is clear. Now we'll see another command, last command in Selenium Wait command, which is Fluent Wait. Fluent Wait, right? So what is Fluent Wait? So Fluent Wait almost looks like Explicit Wait. So it has even more control than Explicit Wait. So what do we mean by that? So let me show you the syntax first. How do we declare it and how we use it? So wait is an interface. So here we instantiate it to the Fluent Wait class. Fluent Wait is a class. So which is implementing the wait interface, right? So we can have some declaration like something like this, right? So it is taking the type as WebDriver. So we have passed the WebDriver to it. Fine. Till here it is fine, right? Dot. Then Fluent Wait, we are using some method of Fluent Wait, right? With timeout. Again, time is specified here, right? So time and then polling. So we have a control over polling here. So we said like the element will be located using explicit wait. What it does, it will try to find the element continuously on the web page if it is present or not, right? So that's a continuous process within the maximum timeout. But here we have control over that polling. So we don't need to poll it the element every time. Like say for example, if it was polling every second, right? So that's again an overhead on the application, right? So instead of that, or automation script on the application itself, right? So instead of that, we can poll it in a periodic interval. Like say for example, timeout in the sense this is maximum timeout we'll specify. Say for example, this is my 30 seconds. I wanted to wait. And I'll poll only every 5 seconds. So once I poll in the sense, I'll try to locate the element if it is present or not in our case. So if it is not present, we'll not check it till 5 seconds. Only after 5 seconds, I'll again check. So with this, what happens within the 30 seconds, we are not actually verifying the element to be present 30 times. Instead of that, 30 by 5, 6 times. We'll only verify 6 times, right? So that's what we call it as poll. So that poll, we have the control in the Fluent Wait. So that we can specify here. And another part, dot. So we are specifying another method, which is called as ignoring. Ignoring is a method which ignores exceptions. So during the process of this, if you do not find the element, you will get an exception called no such element exception. We know that, but do not throw that error when you poll it. So because it is polling, right? Polling in the sense it will try to find the element. It will try to find the element, and if it is not present, there is a chance that it might throw the no such element exception. So we are saying that we know during the polling there's a chance of getting no such element exception, but ignore that exception is what we are saying. So that's the meaning of this declaration part of Fluent Wait. So that's what. So polling is the maximum timeout. Within the maximum timeout, how many times you wanted to check your condition is the polling time. How many times you wanted to check your condition. Or in our case, how many times you wanted to find the web element. Or how many times you wanted to locate the element if it is present or not. Is the polling time. Is what we call it as polling. So this is the syntax of it, like declaration part of the wait, right? Fluent wait. Now, how to use it? So using it is a bit different. So you see here, so this wait will use until. So if you observe, this is what we did for explicit wait as well. So we have to specify condition, right? So until, what's the condition? So here it will be a anonymous inner class, or it's a functional interface. Function itself is an interface. So we'll use new function. It will take two arguments. The first one is input and the second one is the output. So input is WebDriver. We'll pass WebDriver to it. And then we wanted to actually have the return type as web element. So within this new functional interface, so we have some method called apply. which we have to implement it, or we need to give the definition for. So we need to give the definition for apply method. So within the apply method, we need to write the logic to find the element. So what will be the logic? The logic will be to find the element, because apply method itself is expecting the web element to be returned. So the web element will be the element which we wanted to locate on the web page, right? So to locate the element, we use the driver.find element. So this is nothing new to us. So this is gonna return a web element. So apply method will have that web element, and this until method will be true, right? As the web element is found. Then if it is true, then it will just continue with the execution, automation script execution, right? So the only thing is it will consider all this. It will consider the maximum timeout. So this has to be true within this timeout, maximum timeout. And within the maximum timeout, polling happens according to the time we specify. And we wanted to ignore some specific exceptions. We can specify it here during this process. During the polling process, it might encounter some exceptions that we wanted to ignore, that we can specify here. So that is all about the Fluent Wait. We'll see an example on that. We'll have a discussion on that example. So again, just for simplicity, I'll use the same example for the Fluent Wait as well. One second. So we don't have explicit wait, right? So I'm just removing this. We instantiated the driver to the Chrome browser, and then we are navigating to the URL, maximizing the window, fine. And then we click on the button, right? So this is what we wanted to automate, right? Now we wanted to define the Fluent Wait instance, right? So let me put it here. So you have to use it as is, right? So the syntax has to be as is. This wait, we have to import it. This is an interface, and Fluent Wait is also a class. Import no such element exception. So this has to be from arg.openqa.selenium. So this is also present in java.util. So you have to be careful to select which one to be imported. All right. So the declaration part is done. So we defined a Fluent Wait instance here. And what is this? This is the total timeout. This is the polling interval, right? So what we did was we wanted to wait for 10 seconds maximum, and we wanted to poll for the web element to be present or not every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, we'll verify. Not like, every time. Say, for example, in a second, we don't need to wait, don't need to, locate it 10 times within a second, or you don't even need to locate it, twice or thrice within a second. We know it will take some time, right? So you don't need to verify it each time so frequently. So that's the reason we are actually changing that frequency using the polling. So that frequency of verifying the element each time on the each time if that is present on the web page or not is called polling, right? So that polling, we have a control here. So we will wait for 2 seconds. Once we verify if the element is present on the web page or not. If it is not present, then we'll wait for 2 seconds, and after 2 seconds only, we'll again verify it. That's what we call it as polling interval. And during that process, we might get, so what the polling, what it will do, it will try to find the element. And if it is not present, so it will throw an exception, no such element exception, right? So in order to ignore that exception, we have specified this. Ignore this exception. After polling, we are going to write the driver.find element, right? So let's actually complete that even. So this is about the explicit wait. So I'll just remove this. We don't even need this. We'll get the Fluent Wait syntax here. I know this looks lengthy. Yeah, but that's how the Fluent Wait has been defined in Selenium. So if you wanted to have the more control over your execution, right? And wait time. So this is how you need to use it. And now you see, once you write this script, right? So it's better always you can copy this. So if you feel it difficult remembering it, right? So you can copy this declaration part and this usage part as well. This is declaration part, and this is how you use it. So it's better you actually copy it as is, and change the code accordingly within the method, right? So now this function. So you need to import it carefully. This you should not be importing it from java.util function. This has to come from Google's Goa library. So this function is from Google's Goa library. So that we have to select it from Google package, com.google.common.base. So the error is gone. Now let's try to understand it again. So wait is an interface object, which has been instantiated with Fluent Wait object, right? Fluent Wait is a class which is implementing this implemented this wait interface, right? So instantiated with the WebDriver, and then we use a method called with timeout, which specifies the maximum timeout. And within that, it has to poll every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, it will try to find if the web element is present or not. And during that process, it might encounter an exception called no such element exception. So we are saying ignore that exception. So this is simple, right? And using this wait object, what we are doing, we are using the until method. Even this is not, this we saw it when we are discussing about the explicit wait. We'll use the until method. Now, this part, right? This part is new to us. New function. Function is a functional interface. So, functional interface, which is actually taking, you can see, it actually takes input as WebDriver and return type is web element. So within this functional interface, so it has one method called apply. So we have to provide definition for that apply method. So this is the definition which we provided. The definition is simple. You can see. So what did we do here? We are trying to use the driver.findElement, the element locator, right? And we know. So this will return a web element if it is found, right? So that we captured in an object called element. Now we have written a small condition here. If element is displayed, what it will return? It will return a Boolean value. If it will return true or false. If it is displayed, it will return true, or else it will return false. This method, we have seen this, right? If the element is displayed is what we are verifying. Say for example, this element was found. In that case, what happens? This method will return true. And we are using logical operator here. And then if you observe element.getText. So getText we have seen here, right? So this getText, the same getText we are using here, right? So this getText dot is empty. If it is empty, is what we are verifying. But if you see, we are having a negation condition here. Negation condition is not empty. We are verifying if it is empty, and we have negation, meaning it has to be not empty is what we are verifying, right? So it is simple. We found the element. This line is clear, I guess. So even before this, so wait, we know it is coming from the WebDriver wait. It is, I think, simple to understand. Using that wait object, we are using until method. Even this we have seen in the explicit wait. So within that, we have to specify parameter to that, which is a functional interface. So we have to use it like this, as is, and then within that, we have to implement its method called apply. So apply method has this signature. We'll have it as is. And then within that, we have to provide the method definition. What's the method definition? So our requirement is to find a particular element. We are trying to find the element, right? So once it is found, we are writing small condition. We wanted to see if the element is really displayed, right? We don't know, right? With this find element, you can't know that if the element is found or not. So within that time, right? Even this, this XPath is correct or not, this find element can't actually assure that. Only thing is it will try to find this locator. If it is found, it will return the web element, or else it will return an exception, right? So that we are verifying here. If the element is displayed, yes, if the element is displayed, true. And if the element has the text which is not empty, so the text should not be empty. If that is the case, then only then return the web element is what we are saying. right? So it will return a web element. So if it is returning a web element, then in that case, so it will return a web element in that case, right? So or else what it happens, so this condition will be false. When it will be false? If this element is not found. So if it is not found, then this condition will itself will be false, right? If it is false, it will return null. So whenever a null is written, so this until function, so this until method will know, so the condition has failed, so I have to poll it again. So it will wait for some 2 seconds here in your case, and then it will try this function again after 2 seconds. So this will be repeated till this maximum timeout or this condition is met. If this condition is met within this time, then it will return the web element. Web element, this until method will have this web element, and it will actually have this this finish element will actually capture that web element, right? So this is how it works. If it is not present, right? So not present in the sense this if condition will definitely be failing. So this if condition will fail. This condition which we have specified, this will be false, right? So in that case, it will not enter into this loop, meaning it will not return the element. So it will just come out of this. No, it will not enter into this in if condition. It will execute the next line. Next line in the sense return null. So this until method, it will always try to, you can even see the implementations until method. Implementation should wait until the condition evaluate to a value that is neither null nor false. It should not be null or it should not be false. Because of this contract, the return type must not be void. So because of this, the contract is not void. See, it has to be some element, right? So in that some return type, it is web element here, right? So this until method, it will expect non-null element. Until then, it will actually it will try to poll for the web element. Polling in the sense, here in this case, it will actually try to have this method, this apply method every time. It will actually execute this method continuously until this maximum timeout. And again, it will not, it will do continuously, but not like very frequently. That polling time is specified here. So every 2 seconds only, it will execute this method, apply, and that too, only this element is if this element is not present. If this element is written, right? So that is all what we wanted, and that is all what we are trying for, right? So if this element itself is written, then that's it. So this finish element will get that element and will just come out of this entire code, right? So it will just try to execute the next line of code. Only thing is, if this is not present, it will return null. We are returning null. So that what happens, this until method, we are giving it a hint that the element is not found yet. So once it returns null, it will know that the element is not found yet. So it will just verify if we are still in the maximum timeout. Yes, we are still in that maximum timeout. Then it will actually try to execute this apply method again, once again, checking this polling interval, right? So within this 10 seconds in the sense, at max 10 by 2, it will execute this apply method only 5 times. It will verify this apply method or try to find this element only 5 times within this maximum timeout with our code. As we have specified the polling time as 2 seconds. Say for example, I'll say 5 seconds, right? So it will actually verify it only 2 times within the maximum timeout of 10 seconds, right? So that is how this works. So you'll verify it once. Yeah, see, we got the output, right? So within this timeout, so it might have fold like some 2 to 3 times to find the element, and it might have found like third time or fourth time, it might have found, right? The element, and it returned that element. And finally, once we get the element, we can read the text out of it. So yeah, I know definitely this Fluent Wait is bit tricky than the other weights, but yeah, that's how the Fluent Wait has been defined in Selenium. In order to get that flexibility, right, of or control over the polling and also on the condition. So this is how we need to use it. Understood? Please confirm on the chat box. So this is how the Fluent Wait works. Yeah, you definitely need to practice anything, right? You have to practice. Only then you'll get to understand this, and you'll get a control over it. So, any questions on whatever we discussed? So you don't need to remember this. That's what I said, right? So so say for example, this Fluent Wait, right? Even I was not writing the code, if you observe. So you might go wrong somewhere, and it will take a long time for you to identify what the issue is. So whatever is working code, right? So even this is specified in the Fluent Wait documentation as well, right? So this what you can do in that case is you don't need to memorize it. You can copy it as is to define the Fluent Wait, right? So you can just have it like this. You can just change these parameters. What will be your maximum timeout? In some cases, people wait for 30 seconds, and then they will have 5 seconds as the poll time, like that, right? So according to your requirement, you will just change this two parameters, maximum timeout and poll time. That's it. The entire thing you'll copy it. And again, coming to the usage, you can copy this code as is. You don't need to change anything here except this locator, right? So you can just change this locator. All that you're trying to look for an element on the web page, right? So anyway, you are writing this code itself to have this web element to be displayed on the web page. So I think you don't even need to change this until and unless your element is a button or a different field, right? So if it is a text, you can directly use this condition. So you'll write some condition here, which to make sure that your element is present. That's the logic of it, right? So as it was text, I have written this logic. So all that you'll do here is you can directly use this code as this, and maybe you can just change your locator here. That's all. So the short answer to your question is you don't need to memorize this. You can use this code as is. You can just save this program or this Fluent Wait demo.java class somewhere, and you can use it as is according to your requirement. If you wanted to use somewhere, right, then you can just use it as is. But it's better, like in the point of view of interview, right? So this is very important. So you'll get different questions, right? So what is the difference between implicit and explicit wait? So you can say, if you know about this concept, right? So you can clearly see that implicit wait, it actually it waits for irrespective of the object, right? A web element, it actually waits for any web element on the web page. In fact, it actually waits for the page load also, right? So that's implicit wait. But explicit wait, it is specific to the web element. We write the condition specific to the web element, and it is based on the condition. Implicit wait is only based on the time, right? So explicit wait, it is based on time as well as the condition. That is what we need to say, right? And what's the other advantage of explicit wait? So you'll write it, you know, you'll have this condition specific to that web element. It's not common, right? So it's specific to that web element. We can write the different conditions, and it is only when required, right? If it is not required, some pages doesn't even require, right? Till now, like whatever web pages we automated, most of the pages loads, most of the web elements are displayed in time, right? So it was not taking long time. So most of the cases it will be like that. So only in some specific cases you need to write this wait comments. So in such cases, we can use the explicit wait for that particular web elements. So that's the difference between implicit and explicit wait. And okay, let's actually have a document here. Yeah, let's go through all this. Let me zoom in. So what's the implicit wait? It's a global wait time. It's a global wait time for all the elements. But explicit wait, it waits for a specific element condition for a specific element, right? And what about fluent wait? It waits for a specific condition within a customizable polling interval. That's the only new thing which we are, advantage, more benefit which you get over the explicit wait. It has a polling interval, and it can also ignore the exceptions. What's the scope? So global applies to all web elements in the implicit wait. Whereas in explicit wait, it is local. It applies to the specific web element or a condition. Same goes for the fluent wait as well. Usage, it is simple and consistent, right? Consistent element wait. It is simple to use, implicit wait. You define it once, it is applicable for all the web elements. Explicit wait usage, it is specific wait for the elements to meet certain conditions, right? And in fluent wait, it's an advanced wait for the elements with customizable polling and exception handling. Flexibility, less flexible in implicit wait, right? Because it applies to all web elements. So you don't have control over each web element. So you don't have that flexibility. Coming to explicit wait, it is more flexible. It can wait for specific conditions like visibility, visibility for element, like images, input fields, and clickability for buttons, like that. You can have different conditions specified for different web elements. And coming to fluent wait, it is most flexible. It allows polling intervals as well. And you can ignore some specific exceptions as well. And you can write your own custom conditions. We have seen that, right? We have seen a small if condition written here in the fluent wait. So this is all customizable. You can write any condition here. So it is more flexible. And exception handling. Implicit wait, you can't handle any exception. If the element is not found within that maximum timeout, you will definitely get the no such element exception. But you can handle various conditions, like, so you can handle it with various conditions using the expected conditions in case of explicit wait. And in fluent wait, so fluent wait, what we can do, we can actually ignore some specific exceptions, right? And performance can cause delays if overused, as it waits for every element, right? So as it waits for every element, there could be some delay when you use implicit wait, because it is applicable for all the web elements. So it is more efficient as it only waits for whenever necessary for the specific web elements. And it can be, fluent wait can be efficient with proper use. But improper polling intervals can cause delays. So you have to be careful when we are when we are providing the polling intervals. This is just an example we have seen. And code complexity, it is simple to implement implicit wait, and it requires more code to set up and use, which in the explicit wait. And we have seen the fluent wait. It is definitely like it requires like it's lengthy. The code is lengthy, that's all. But offers advanced control. So when we have to use it? When you have simple and consistent web applications and you don't have delays loading the web elements, then you can actually use the implicit wait. Explicit wait you'll use when you wanted the wait for specific web elements under specific conditions. Some web elements might take some long time, right? Only some web elements might take some long time, right? So delayed text displayed on the web page. In such cases, you can have explicit wait. And go for fluent wait only when you have complex scenarios where elements load unpredictably. Say so, for example, right? So some elements you can't predict how much time some web elements takes time to load, right? So say for example, it all depends on the data on the backend, right? So if it has huge data, it might take some long time. If it has same element, if it has less data, right? So it might actually load in very fast, right? So it might not be constant every time. So meaning you can't predict the time, uh, how much time it takes. So in such cases, you can actually use the fluent wait. So these are the differences. So these differences you have to learn. So at least at a high level, you have to learn some two, 3, or 4 differences like that at a high level, right? So you have to understand these differences and you have to memorize this. This is so there is no alternate to it. So you have to remember this because this is an important interview question. So why do we have 3 waits? different weights in Selenium. What are they, and what are the differences between them, right? So just to summarize, right? So, or if you don't actually memorize, right, everything, so you can just come up with this summary, or the summary is, you can consider it as the summary of this session. So we have seen the Selenium wait commands, and before that we have seen how we can use the how we can actually wait or make the automation script pass for a few seconds, right? So for some time we can pass the automation script using the Thread.sleep, which is the Java method, and it has its own disadvantages. We have seen that, and all we are doing all this. Why this wait commands came into place is because of the synchronization problem. We have seen this. And then we have used the dot slip, and we have seen its own disadvantages, and we have started learning the Selenium wait commands. So implicit, explicit, and fluent waits are the wait commands specific to Selenium, and implicit wait we have seen like how we can use it, right? So coming to this, the summary, implicit wait is simple and global. It is suitable for web pages where the web elements load predictably. You know that you don't have that unpredictability. You know that your elements are all like the usual elements which load within a specific time, right? Then you can use go for implicit wait. Explicit wait is specific and flexible. It is ideal for waiting for particular conditions. And fluent wait, it offers advanced control with polling and exception handling, and it's perfect for unpredictable scenarios. Only unpredictable scenarios you'll use the fluent wait, or else so it is good enough to use implicit wait and explicit wait. So this is all about the Selenium wait commands. Any questions? All right then. So if you do not have any questions, then we can stop here and we can meet in the next session.